Social media, mobile, analytics, and cloud computing have converged to create a deluge of data and revamped how we form networks. Companies are no longer confined by walls or even partner networks. Simply put, you need to collaborate with everyone who touches a company or die. Hello, I'm Larry Dignan, Editor-in-Chief of ZDNet. I'm here to discuss the power of networks and the future of business collaboration with Zachary Tumin, Senior Researcher at Harvard Kennedy School. Zach's research focuses on the strategic management of collaboration across corporate and personal networks. Zach, along with William J. Bratton, wrote the seminal book on networking, Collaborate or Perish, Reaching Across Boundaries in a Networking World. Zach, thanks for joining me today.
Larry, good to be here. Thank you.
You've made the point in presentations and your book, society is more connected than ever. Can you explain that? Give us the state of collaboration today and particularly how it affects business networks.
Sure. We're connected by internet, we're connected by mobile, we're connected digitally in many ways that have tremendous impact on whether and where we talk to each other and how and the work that we get done. Today, those possibilities unfold and represent tremendous potential for wealth, financial, personal satisfaction, the happiness of shoppers, the delight of children, advantage in the marketplace, the political race, the battle space. How we marshal those networks and how we take advantage of those digital technologies has everything to do with whether we'll reap that advantage. And if we aren't going to, someone else will.
How does this networking improve profits and operations? For instance, can these new networks reconfigure supply chains and basically customer networks, partner networks, that sort of thing?
I think supply chains represent an important area for gain from digital networking. In particular, we're seeing firms who are recombining suppliers to address demand as they see it. We're seeing social emerge as a way for disparate partners on a supply chain to understand where their shipments are, the status of a good moving through a manufacturing process. It's a lot easier these days to have transparency throughout a supply chain. It's also important in a supply chain to be able to call upon your partners and develop those collaborations when emergency strikes, when you need to come together and reconfigure, as will happen when there's a fire at a plant, when there's tremendous damage from either a natural or man-made disaster. Then collaboration across the supply chain, those relationships built on digital frameworks but operating on the basis of trust between people and business experience really confer advantage. We've seen it time and time again.
Do you think social networking can give you an insight to demand that you wouldn't have otherwise?
Oh, sure. Social networking, we all create an enormous digital exhaust now. Everything that we touch, everything, our cell phones, our web presence, our social media presence, creates a residue that others are able now to scoop up and make sense of. It's out there in the clear for the most part. If it's not, we can still get it. And that gives the advantage of insight to sentiment that we've never had, insight to habits and practices that we've never had. And if you convert that to then some new sales position or some new opportunity, gives you tremendous advantage. So yeah, social media, I think, confers that. In addition, it connects people. And so we're able to take matters that before were quite personal, go public with them and create communities around them. We see then the value of social media in creating viral videos and advancing political causes. And captured, we see social media being used to in combat. We see it being used in politics and in the markets. And when it's used successfully, has astounding effects.
You've coined the phrase collabonomics. Can you explain to us what that is?
Well, collabonomics is a shorthand term for understanding some of the political economy of collaboration. Collabonomics you can think of as the politics and the economics of coming together. When people come together to do work, everyone asks, what's in it for me? There has to be in it something in it, and there's also an exchange of power, because with the sharing of futures and the sharing of assets, which is really what collaboration is about. There needs to you enter into a relationship. Collabonomics is a way to think about, to talk about when that makes sense for people. What are the collabonomics of a value proposition for collaboration? It can be hard, it can be easy, it can be tremendously valuable, can be difficult. So collabonomics is one way to begin to gauge whether the move towards collaboration is something that net really makes sense for someone.
How much data heavy lifting is there to do before even starting a collaboration project?
Oh, it's the heavy lifting of getting the data ready is a significant cost, a significant challenge. Has to be scrubbed, ready, cleaned up, and made ready to speak. And the complexity of that can be enormous. But it's also something that we're getting better and better at, and it's essential as one of the toolkits that we do it well.
How do you see the Internet of Things affecting the collaboration networks?
We're about to have trillions of new bytes of data. We're about to see the world in ways we never have. Everything from bridge spans to milk in the refrigerator, the status of our medical devices, status of space and the weather. Internet of Things is going to challenge us to make sense of all this data in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. When we start putting sensors on our physical infrastructure, we can see things that way in advance, way ahead of any problems arising, and avoid tremendous cost and even potentially great damage. When it works, then you can watch a truck that's coming down the highway in Fredericksburg, 50 miles from Washington, D.C., that's tripping radiation sensors, and it's at 45 miles and it's at 40 miles, and you can begin to move that information to police officers and others, as well as scientists, to evaluate the signal and know whether that signal that on that truck that's headed to Washington now, blasting radiation sensors, is actually filled with kitty litter, because that triggers those sensors, where this is something we need to worry about. Getting that information all together in a way that lets us understand our context is what's key here. Context of our world is revealed by these sensors. Context of our world is revealed by social media. Context of our world is contained in the cloud. We generate it constantly in our mobile phones. Being able to take advantage of context and convert it to power is really what it's all about.
You've lectured on the impact of open data initiatives. What impact does it have for businesses and governments?
Well, there are a lot of different definitions of open data. By creating open data, we're able to see what everyone else can see. We're able to make sense of the world through their data coming together with ours, see where there's advantage, profit, power to be had. And it's a challenge, I think, both for corporations as well as for governments, but for corporations who are moving out into the world, who want to collaborate with governments, but find the governance around their data sets difficult. Those are the kinds of arrangements that need to be clarified, need to be worked on to really open up the data in a way that makes it valuable.
The concept of the social graph, how do you think businesses can use it as far as a customer tool and also internally?
Tell me what you mean by a social graph.
The idea that you can basically chart a network. Like, if we were Facebook friends, we basically connect the dots, right, between your social circle, my social circle, et cetera. How do you think businesses can map their supply chain networks, map their partners and their customers to create sort of a Uber visualization of the business,
well, I think,
or the value chain, whatever you want to call it?
I think you put your finger right on it. It's to create a visualization of the business in ways they've never been able to before. Be able to see who the influencers are and move in that direction. Understand the structure of the networks, who are the brokers in the middle, who are the connectors, how do these different networks, how can you move networks together by touching one part here, and then activating passion over here, values over here. What will be the consequence of that? That's the power of the social graph, I think, is to accelerate and accentuate and amplify the effects of relatively small moves so that they then rapidly proliferate. And what that means is that you're moving to scale quickly. You're buying more of whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's a political message, whether you're looking for hearts and minds in the battle space, whether it's a marketing campaign that you're hoping to go viral and be the buzz and talk of social media. That graph lets you understand some of those moves and how to make them.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Sure. My pleasure, Larry. Thank you.